Welcome, welcome. Follow-up Friday with Frenchie. How is everybody today? Well, it is Derby weekend, so tomorrow I hope you have your Derby hat ready. We are off to the races. Well, if you're working with me, you're always off to the races. So I want to take a moment to talk about, are you ready for the race? And what does that mean? Every time I meet with a client, we do our first date, and we have a minute to sit down and talk about how this race is going to look. What does this process look like? And when that comes into play, the first thing we start with is, are you pre-approved? So I've talked about pre-approvals before, and I want to take and focus just this time specifically on what does that mean and what is the importance of a pre-approval. And then we're going to cut it short and off to the races, and next week we'll talk about something in the process. So your pre-approval, why is that so important? Well, it comes down to, what is the bank going to allow you to buy? So if you're getting a mortgage on a house and you're not a cash offer, you have to have money from the bank. Back in 2008, when we had the big bubble bust, the concern was, or the main reason I believe personally, and from my research, that we busted because banks were just giving money away and allowing mortgages to go through. If you worked at McDonald's when you were 14 and now you're 35 years later and you have $1 in the bank account. Being sarcastic, just saying that they were really allowing mortgages to go through and pre-approvals and buying homes without the proper qualifications. That was one part of the 2008 big bust. So now the process is a little more in-depth and it's a little more strict. And that means that you have to have some documentation to buy a house. So your pre-approval is not the whole process. It is not the underwriting. It is not making sure all the cobwebs are out of the closet. The pre-approval is simply making sure what you have up front matches the purchase price of what you want to buy. So you're going to come with your tax documents. You're going to come with pay stubs, identification. You're going to put that and give that into a lender or a mortgage broker. That mortgage broker or mortgage lender is going to go through the process of kind of pulling credit, things like that, eventually making sure that you are able to afford this house that you want to purchase. Now, that comes down to what you want to purchase and what the bank will allow you. Do they match? I like to use just simple 100,000. It's very difficult to find a house these days for 100,000, but the numbers are easier to work with. So let's say you want to purchase a home for 100,000. You go to the bank and you get pre-approved. Why did you pick 100,000? Maybe it's based off of the monthly payment and that's what you're comfortable with. So with that purchase price, you work out your own budget, and that's very important. What do you think you can afford? What can you afford per month? How much money do you have in the bank account? We'll talk about that another time. But once you have that number, you go to the bank and you say, I want to buy a home and this is kind of my goal. The bank lender, the mortgage broker, at that point hopefully will say, yes, you're great. You can purchase at that price. You could even go higher. Or they're going to find a hiccup and say, no, we don't qualify there. Maybe you have too much debt to income. Maybe there's something on your credit that you didn't know about that we need to clear. Those are the items that are very important with the pre-approval process. So what you think you can afford and what the bank will allow you to buy has to match up. They might also say to you, look, you can approve 500,000 and you've only budgeted for 100,000. Just because you're pre-approved at that price does not mean that's the price you need to purchase. You need to be aware how much you can afford. And then if the bank gives you more than that, that's great, but you still have to make that payment. So no matter what the bank allows you to purchase or says you're pre-approved for, you have to be comfortable with that price and you still have to pay that. It's very important to understand there's different things that come up with purchasing the home and what those monthly expenses are, and maybe one day we'll break those down. But for right now, get off to the races, and the first step in that race, your training, is getting that pre-approval, putting the bet on the right horse. So once you have the amount that you're ready to purchase, once you know how much you want to spend, you go to the bank, get your documents lined up. I personally will not show homes without the pre-approval because you have to make sure that you're not wasting a seller's time. In this market, things move quickly. If I'm ready to put an offer in, I need to have that pre-approval in hand to go with my offer. And if you're not pre-approved, then not sure where we're going to go with that, because an offer is no good unless you can afford the home. And why not get that out of the way when you start looking? From there, after the pre-approval, the agreement of sale, and we actually have the house, there's more to it. But to be off to the races, we need to get that pre-approval. It's not a make or break. You can choose the lender. I have multiple lenders that I always recommend. They are the top notch. And then once you start working with them, you solid and pick on one. I mean, if you'd like to go with 3 pre-approvals for 3 different lenders, you're allowed to do that. Zone in on one for the process and off to the races we go. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you're watching the Derby. Let me know who you're betting on. I'm going to have to pick one today. I have a busy day, 2 listing appointments, and then meeting with some great colleagues this afternoon, and then another showing this evening. So have a great week. Make sure you check out my stories later. You're going to see my new shoes. Woo, they match the blue. I love what I do. I know you will too. I'll see you guys next week.